PragerUggh.
There are crazy positions on the far left and crazy positions on the far right. On the left, there are people who believe a man can get pregnant, that the world is going to end in a decade if we don't cap carbon emissions, that the real purpose of the American Revolution was to preserve slavery. On the right, there are people who deny the Holocaust happened, who believe that whites are inherently superior to other races, that no one should pay taxes.
One of these things is not like the others. One of these things doesn't belong. Can you tell which thing is not like the other by the time I finish this song?
Hey guys, who are more radical? College students after a 101 course or neo-Nazis, lol? The world is not going to end in a decade, but we only have a decade to prevent irreversible damage from climate change. Also, does he mean the Civil War? The Civil War was fought to preserve the institutions of slavery. The American Revolutionary War, however, was fought for independence, at least for white men. All that seems tame with radicals on the right who deny the Holocaust, are white supremacists, and want to eliminate taxes.
But there's an important difference between these two extremes. The crazies on the right have no voice. They are shunned. They live mostly on the far fringes of the internet. The crazies on the left have a loud voice. They are celebrated. They live in the halls of Congress, in state legislatures, and in governors' mansions.
Fringes of the internet, you have Fox News, Daily Wire, The Daily Caller, Breitbart, OAN, Newsmax, and literally dozens more to hear far-right rhetoric. They have a presence largely online and in mainstream news, and when called out on, they cry censorship. The right have a voice, and they never shut up. This would actually mean something if they weren't calling anyone left of them radical. The radical left have little to no power in this country. If they did, do you think we would have Biden as our next president? No, they would have elected based Bernie. The Democrats in this country can't even stand a progressive, so I don't know what he's talking about, political or social power. The right has had power in this country despite them being a political minority, and within that they have openly embraced white supremacy since the 60s.
In light of this distinction, it might be interesting to ask ourselves this question. Which group, the left or the right, is more radical? We can arrive at a common sense answer by posing this thought experiment. What would America look like if the left got everything it wanted, and what would America look like if the right got everything it wanted?
When it comes to conservatives, common sense is not common sense. To them, common sense is just what they think everyone should feel, regardless of reality. With the left, it would probably be awesome, to be like every other first world country. If the right had their way, this country would probably be like the man in the high castle.
Let's start with the left. Taxes would go up on individuals and corporations to pay for more social programs. Everything from universal childcare to free college tuition. Many on the left call for income taxes as high as 70%.
That sounds pretty base, not gonna lie. Is this really radical when this has happened before, except when it was much higher? This was during a time America was great, too. The left does not want to tax everyone the same, just the rich and wealthy. They also want to tax corporations more than anything else.
Private health insurance would be abolished. The government would provide all healthcare services. Everyone in the medical field, from doctors, nurses, and administrators, would be government employees. Americans would pay for this government healthcare through much higher taxes.
Based. Also, he keeps mentioning how bad taxes would be and how bad government is, but with the Medicare for All, it will be cheaper overall with more people insured. Compared to other countries with Medicaid for All, we still pay more, but something government bad, am I right?
Illegal immigration would be decriminalized. It would still be illegal to enter the country without proper documentation, but no one who made it into the U.S. would be prosecuted for doing so. Illegal immigrants would also receive free healthcare, free education, and free housing.
How was any of this bad again? Or radical? I know this is all a straw man, but who generally believes immigrants should get free housing? People barely believe housing is a right. Overall, this sounds like a better country so far.
The Green New Deal would be adopted. Hundreds of billions of dollars of subsidies for wind and solar power would be added to the federal budget. Drilling for fossil fuels, the current source of 80% of our energy, would be sharply curtailed or eliminated altogether. So would nuclear power. As a result, consumers' electric bills would be much higher.
The Green New Deal is bad because less fossil fuels means higher electric bill.
This will bring in millions of jobs to the economy and help improve our derated infrastructure. It will also phase out oil, not just stop its use cold turkey. Less fracking and drilling is a good thing due to the dangers we know they cause the environment, but it is why investing in newer, greener energy and technology is a must, especially if we are to be the first country to do so. Nuclear power is cool, but it would have to be regulated as fuck, and we all know how they hate that.
Reparations would be paid for the past injustice of slavery. How it would be paid and exactly to whom is not clear.
Black people would get it, duh. Reparations should be more than just giving money. It should include investing in disadvantaged communities, better education, and much, much more.
Legally acquiring a gun would become much more difficult.
Considering I live in 2020 America, I can't see how that is a bad thing.
College debt would be canceled. Those who had already paid for college would get nothing.
What even is the argument here? Good for the people who are able to pay for their student loans, but bootstrap mentality isn't going to help the majority of people struggling because of them. We shouldn't make laws to help people in the future. People really take PragerU seriously.
Transgender women, biological men who identify as women, would be allowed to compete against women in sports.
You have to admire how PragerU takes every opportunity they can to disparage trans women. After a few years on hormones, the differences between trans girls and cis girls are negligible. Essentially, what I'm trying to say is this. Get good. They think trans women are Joanna Man or some ish.
America's military budget would be slashed by 25 to 50%.
Good. It's already bloated, and more than the next 20-something countries combined.
Speech codes would be enforced throughout American life. And that's just a partial list.
Speech codes just mean don't say hate speech. You know, don't be racist or a bigot, or knowingly spread misinformation.
Now let's ask what would happen if the right got what it wanted. Income taxes would be cut. Capital gains taxes would be cut. Corporate taxes would be cut. And those cuts would be made permanent.
The right wants to do away with taxes in every conceivable way. Don't they already do that before the rich? If there are no taxes, how will anything get paid? Is this just an indirect way of saying everything should be privatized?
All regulations that make doing business unnecessarily difficult and don't protect public health would be repealed.
Regulations is why we have clean water, cleanish air, and safe work conditions. They want to get rid of them because it is a cheaper option to say F the environment, the people, and anything else for profit. It's a part of their belief of trickle-down economics. That shit don't work. Next.
The issue of abortion would be sent back to the states for each state to decide its own abortion rules for itself.
Let's be real. If they could, the right would not let abortion be a states' rights issue. They would just outright ban it.
Many more charter schools would be opened, and it would become much easier to fire bad teachers.
Charter schools suck.
In order to vote, citizens would need to present a valid ID.
Voter ID is not inherently racist, but has often been used as a way to keep minorities from voting.
The border with Mexico would be secured. The only way to enter the United States would be through designated border crossings.
I mean, how else are they going to enforce their ethno-state?
In order to qualify for welfare assistance, you would have to prove you could not work. The healthcare system would be open to free market reforms. For example, insurance companies could sell policies across state lines.
So essentially, they just want to make social services worse for the poor. There's people who desperately need welfare and other government assistance, especially now during a pandemic, and the right wants to let people starve and give money to businesses. For healthcare, they would make it more expensive and somehow more inefficient.
Students in elementary school would recite the Pledge of Allegiance at the start of each school day.
They already do that.
So what can we conclude from our experiment? It's not hard to figure out. If the right got everything it wanted, the government would get much smaller. The citizen would have more freedom. If the left got everything it wanted, the government would get much bigger. The citizen would have less freedom.
Right good because less government, more freedom. Left bad because more government, less freedom. What the fuck does this even mean? The right wants less government because it would be easier to discriminate. That's literally what MAGA is about. I mean, if I don't have to worry myself ragged about medical bills, housing, college debts, that would make me freer. And shoot, I know it would make a lot of other people more free too.
You're not radical if you want America to be what it's always been, committed to individual liberty. You're only radical if you want to fundamentally transform America into something it's never been. Which country do you want to live in? I'm Will Witt for Prager University.
The right makes the American left seem so much better than it really is.
Like, they really glossed over the white supremacy and neo-Nazism.
Thanks to whoever watched this, whether it was to just see what I had to say, or it's just telling me to go F myself because I'm a, Marxist or whatever. I appreciate your views regardless. Anyway, I hope y'all have a wonderful day and stay safe.